A Dog's Way Home, Chapter 5. Abby. Daddy sucked in his breath. Good Lord. He stared at the crumbled guardrail and the skid marks of our tires. Tim, I said, remember? Right, Daddy said. It happened a whole day before the doctor let me out of that put-red hospital. Time to find Tim was a-wasting. Daddy and Mama got out of the van. I opened the back door and tried to maneuver the crunches in front of me. Mama hurried over. No, Abby, you stay here. The road's too narrow. Daddy and I will call him. But he needs to hear my voice, I said. If he's scared or hurt, he might not answer you. Putting his arm around my shoulder, Daddy said, Come on. I'm sorry, I skipped a page. With a sigh, Mama helped me stand and bracing against the car, filling my lungs with hope. I cried out as loud as I could, Tim, come here, Tim. We listened for any sound, a bark, a jingle of tags, nothing. I called again and again and again and again until my voice was broken. Daddy studied the place where the truck had powered through the trees and bushes. Shattered limbs and glass marked the path. Seems like the crate would have been thrown down this way, he said. I'll take a look. The crate should be easy to spot, Mama said. Daddy disappeared through the tree. I held my breath so I could hear him call. I found him. He's okay. My all-time record for holding my breath was 1 minute and 43 seconds. I broke that record and then some that day, but all I heard was wind and birds and Mama tapping her finger on the door of the van. She reached out and pushed my hand away from my mouth. Stop chewing your hair, Abby. I dropped the wet end of my braid. It's been hours, Mama. What's taking him so long? Mama looked at her watch. It's only been 15 minutes. I imagine he'll be back any seconds. Daddy scrambled over the guardrail. His face was flushed and sad. He shook his head. No sign of him, Peanut. Not even his crate? Mama asked. Daddy wiped his hand on his drink. Trouble is, the embankment goes right to the edge of a little cliff. Then it drops straight down to the creek. There's not a shore or anything, just rocks and lots of water. A huge lump lodged in my throat. I blinked back tears. Daddy, there must be a place farther along the creek to get down to the shore, I said. I was thinking the same thing, he said. We drove away up the road. Daddy climbed the guardrail and went off into woods, and while I called him, nothing. Then we drove down the road and did the same thing. I called, waited, and listened. The sun topped the trees. After a time, the sun stood straight over us. Maybe it was a good sign Daddy was gone so long. Mama lay down in the back seat. She didn't look so good. I stayed beside the van, watching the spot where Daddy would surely appear with Tim. But he didn't. He walked out of the woods alone. I'm sorry, honey, he said, but Tim has to be somewhere, I said. Mama sat up. Okay, then, let's head up to the visitor center and talk to Ranger. I knew she was right, but I didn't want to leave. Surely Tim would come back here if he could. Putting his arms around my shoulders, Daddy said, Come on, Peanut, let's go. I jerked away from Daddy's arms and pushed off on my crunches. I got to going pretty fast. Once I got the rhymes down. Abigail, Andrea, Whistler. You stop right now, Mama called. I got to find him, Mama, I called back over my shoulder. I just know he's... The tip of my left crunches missed the edge of the road. I pitched head over heels into the gravel. Daddy was pulling me into his big arm before I had time to blink. Mama brushed the rocks and the dirt from my face. She grabbed the end of one of my braid and gave it a shake. Honestly, Abby, when God handed out stub-born genes, you got the mother lode. Daddy lifted me into his arms. Come on, Abby, honey, Tim's not here. Chapter 6, Tim. Tim lapped water from the creek, eyes closed. His shoulder and hips still aches. His stomach grumbled. He had not eaten since the morning of the accident. Then he heard it, At first, even Tim, with his keen hearing, wasn't sure it was real. He threw his ears forward, water dripping from his muzzle. Silence. Just as he lowered his head, he heard it, stronger this time. Every muscle in his body tensed, fainter than any human ear could possibly hear. Tim heard her voice. Tim! Tim! Tim barked once, twice, then listened again. Her call came from the north. He fixed on the directions, barked again, and picked his way along the creek bank. He did not know that between him and that girl lay miles of rhododendron and mountains laurel so thick a person couldn't push through it. He could not know that it would take hours to work his way back upstream. All he knew was she was calling. For all the years he could remember, this voice was his world, his compass. And when the person he loves most in the world calls, a dog can do nothing but go. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I read 2 chapters. But if you want to hear more, then just find a black screen. Bye.